The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
Georgia's Prime Minister Irakli Garibashvili addressed the participants of the general debate of the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. The Prime Minister emphasized Georgia's role in regional peace building and economic growth in the South Caucasus area. Irakli Garibashvili also spoke extensively about Russia's aggression against Ukraine and Russia's ongoing occupation of 20% of Georgia's land, as well as his country's contribution to supporting Ukraine in the context of Russian aggression. Archil Gachechiladze, CEO of the Bank of Georgia, expects inflation to decrease late in this year. We have seen a trend of decreasing inflation in the last 2 months. I hope this trend will be maintained. Several aspects affecting inflation are moving in a good direction. There is really no pressure on inflation from the side of loans because there is not much demand for loans. As for budget spending, if it is balanced, inflation should not increase, said Gachechiladze. Ukraine, Georgia, Azerbaijan and Moldova will create a free trade zone in New York after the ministerial meeting of the Organization for Democracy and Economic Development. The foreign ministers of Georgia, Ukraine, Azerbaijan and Moldova signed a protocol on determining the country of origin of goods, which will allow the creation of a free trade zone between the Guam countries, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine reported. Tbilisi Mayor Kakha Kaladze declares that about 100 walls have been painted by both Georgian and foreign artists within the framework of the support of street painting. As he said, these works not only add color to the city, but also allow both novice and experienced artists to showcase their creativity and vision. I would like to instruct my deputies to meet again with the representatives of this field and help them as much as possible. In 2019, we allocated approximately 100,000 lari for the implementation of similar projects. These amounts increase every year. We are ready to allocate 500,000 to make Tbilisi even more colorful. Young people were given the opportunity to develop their talents, Tbilisi mayor said. You are watching The Checkpoints with Elena Gvangelashvili. I'm the author of the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to give you the most important in business and economics. Lineat is getting active after establishing its regional center of operations in Europe in Georgia. This is an international IT company whose main office is located in New York and also has offices in Georgia, Poland, and Armenia. The company creates customized computer programs that help them solve the most difficult business tasks, especially problems caused by complex data. The company has more than 15 years of experience in this field. In 2022, Lineat established the Lineat Georgia regional office, which currently employs about 70 people. This week, the first memorandum of cooperation was signed between the Innovation and Technology Agency of Georgia and Lineat Georgia LLC, which involves the exchange of information about the participants of the training program of 3,000 IT specialists within the framework of the campaign Share Success for the purpose of their further employment. Lineat CEO Ben Engber visited BMG Studio for a sit-down interview, which turned into a very dynamic business talk. So, welcome to the Checkpoints, and thank you for taking time and taking our questions. We have photos here. What was this meeting about? I know that it was held today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been great to be here, and we feel absolutely welcomed by the Georgian people and the Georgian government. And that's exactly what's going on here. This morning, I had the privilege of signing a memorandum of understanding with GITA, the State Innovation Agency, which, as you probably know, has been working hard to educate a large number of Georgian IT specialists in advanced skills. And of course, at Lineat, we're a software development consulting company. We're looking for the top talent, and what we're doing there is signing a partnership to both get access to this talent, and also we have a bunch of educational initiatives ourselves and contribute to the talent pool within Georgia.
Yes, you mentioned Lineate very briefly. Could you please tell us a little bit more about the company itself, a short business profile for our viewers and followers?
Of course. Lineate is a software development consulting company specializing in solving difficult data challenges. That's things like large-scale transaction processing, data visualization, real-time decision-making, and so on. We've been in business about 20 years. Just this year, we've expanded into 3 new countries. That's Poland, Armenia, and Georgia. We are making Georgia our tech hub, the development center for our European operations, and we just started here this spring and are very excited to expand.
Yeah, so why Georgia? Why did you choose Georgia?
Well, we did a fair amount of due diligence before making any decisions. What attracted us to Georgia was a few things. One, it has a history of close relations with the U.S. And a reputation for tolerance. There's also a great deal of governmental support for the IT industry. So, as we just mentioned, some of the agencies like ITA are doing an extensive education programs in IT. There's also great tax incentives for international IT companies to move here, as well as good flexibility in work rules to get the needed people in to help establish the company and grow it, as well as really sort of a burgeoning IT scene. So there's a great deal of talent, but it's relatively new, which for us is a major advantage because we're working very hard to build our own culture. The Lineate development culture, we call it freedom to develop, is very central to how we do our work and how we build out the organization. So having a little bit of a blank slate is a real advantage to us.
Mm-hmm. Freedom to develop. It sounds real good. I also love the opening sentence on your website. It says, if your software goals aren't ambitious, don't bother scrolling. So what are some of the ambitious goals that you have in terms of Georgia and region and those countries as well, Armenia and Poland that you mentioned?
Well, so what we want to emphasize, there's a ton of companies out there that offer software engineers for hire. And that's fine, that's a needed service. At Lineate, we've always focused on challenging the most difficult, ambitious problems. And that requires more than just hiring great people. It really involves creating a culture that attracts great people, that helps them collaborate with each other, that makes them want to stay, and that produces great results. And that takes a lot of work and a lot of time. So when we talk about the ambitious goals for Georgia, as I said, we're not just opening another random office here. We really are viewing Georgia as the center of our European operations, which means it needs to be our cultural center as well. So that involves taking the culture which we've developed over 20 years and transplanting it to make it feel like honestly like a Silicon Valley kind of culture in Georgia. Mm-hmm. So we have 65 people that we've hired already in the area. Our goal is to get to 100 by the end of the year, and then 100 more next year. So that is one of our big ambitious goals. We're also opening
and that is totally local market. I mean, you mean Georgians, right? Do you mean professional students, both of them? What is your strategy in that direction?
I will say, in short, both of them. We need that professional core because we are offering high-end services to the international market. Our customers are almost exclusively in the U.S. and Western Europe, and we're focusing on the high end of that market. So we need to go with very high caliber kind of people. At the same time, the way we've historically built this high caliber is certainly we hire great people, but we also develop our own talent. And so many of the top people in the company are people who joined us in a relatively junior role, and over the years grew to this level where they become the next generation of leaders. And that's exactly why we're building our education programs here as well. We have a program called the Lineate Dev School, and that builds upon the skills that someone might learn in university and provides really what modern business-focused software development practices are about. And so, we have boot camps, we've got short-term programs, and then we have long-term programs where we're working with, local universities, such as Kutaisi International University, Caucasus University, talking to San Diego State and Tbilisi State universities, as well as the Ministry of Education, Enterprise Georgia, and trying to build out these programs. Those are still in their infancy, but if anyone's interested, we have a page up on lineate.ge where you can sign up for more information, and we'll get back to you as those programs take shape.
Very interesting. You mentioned great people several times. Are there enough great people on the market?
The truth is there aren't enough great engineers anywhere in the world. This has always been a challenge. It's been a challenge since we started, and especially since COVID, where everybody started moving, where remote work became not an obstacle for more and more companies. The competition for top talent is intense everywhere in the world, including Georgia. But that's where our culture comes in. So our culture is it produces great results, but B, it's about creating an environment where the best people want to work. And I think the results speak for ourselves. The loyalty in our company has always been exceptionally good. And back to your first question, what are the ambitious goals? One of the ambitious goals is to convince everyone in Georgia that Lineate is the best place to work for a top-tier engineer.
Listening to you, I'm wondering if you have any direct competitors on the market. How do you view competition in Georgia?
So, software development consulting is a very crowded space. There are thousands of companies across the world, often promising, relatively similar services. And so all of them at some level are direct competitors. I didn't want to come in here to talk about all our competitors. There are certainly companies in Georgia that are competitive with us. Oftentimes, they focus on different niches. And just yesterday I was talking with one, and we were looking for collaborative opportunities as well, because everybody is faced with this same shortage of talent. The main difference I would, postulate is the fact of our focus on these very difficult data programs, very difficult data problems, I should say. We have the Lineate freedom to develop culture here, which involves taking people, providing them with these difficult problems, giving them close mentorship, and then the variety of events and processes and just everything around that to create the vibe of wanting to work there. And we really feel that this culture is a differentiator.
So that it is more clear for our viewers and followers, what would qualify under very difficult data problem?
Well, for example, I'll give you a few examples. One of the examples is we do a lot of work in the ad tech industry. And the ad tech industry involves essentially every website in the world making tons of auction requests of what ads are going to be displayed at what point in time on which site. And this is literally hundreds of thousands or millions of requests coming in every second. And the technology to be able to conduct an auction at that scale, to handle 1 million requests a second, determine which ones are worth bidding on, and determining the correct price at which to bid, is a very difficult thing to do in software.
Sounds like that.
And not many people can do that. And so we have, the expertise in having built these before, and we have the institutional knowledge around it. Another kind of project we've done is for one of our clients, NYU Langone Medical Center. They have a large amount of health data. I'm not talking about personal health data here, but doctors, their research areas, and so forth, and trying to unify all this data across a large, they have a ton of different systems. They have a lot of data of different kinds. How do you expose this data so people can find what they need? How do you put natural language search on top of that to enable it more intuitively to be found, and so forth? And I'll throw one last one out. We do some work in fintech. On Deck Capital was one of our, they're now called Linear, was one of our major clients. And again, in their case, they're taking the data available to to them, the variety of data, and making a real-time decision on whether to extend loans to small businesses. These kinds of problems.
Yeah, you mentioned this briefly, but maybe you could tell us more in detail. Who do you see as the main stakeholders and also as main partners in this process in establishing American business in Georgia, doing business from Georgia, which is very important for this country?
So I mentioned it a little bit. We actually opened with it.
Yes.
So I will say I was very surprised, having opened the company in a number of countries already, how easy it was to open in Georgia. So the government really did a nice job at smoothing this over. In terms of the partners we have so far, we mentioned GITA, we have the Ministry of Education, we have Enterprise Georgia. There's some local organization called the Georgian American Business Council, that's in the U.S., the Chamber of Commerce, and then we've been talking to the universities as well.
So what are some nearest plans, and I will let you off with this.
Well, our primary goal right now is to get to that 100 mark as quickly as we can. We are hiring as fast as we can. The second goal, of course, is get those education programs off the ground.
Thank you so much and wish you success.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Since we talked about ID culture, it seems only logical to proceed with fintech. Our reporter and an excellent expert in this direction, Georgi Aronia, will give us the details. He attended a conference on the Georgia-UK fintech relations, so here's his take on the issue. What potential do the Georgian fintech companies have?
The Georgian fintech industry is attractive not only for startups and banks, but for governmental organizations too. This is the reason why Tbilisi hosted the UK-Georgia Fintech Forum last week. As the first Secretary and Chief Operating Officer of the Department for International Trade of the United Kingdom says, the British market is strategically important for Georgian fintech companies. At the same time, Mike King emphasizes the entrepreneurial ability and creativity of Georgian fintech companies and their founders.
The Georgian fintech sector is an incredibly exciting sector. There are an awful lot of innovative and creative companies in Georgia that are looking to expand overseas. The UK market is a perfect place for Georgian companies to consider partnering because of the similar innovative style. The Georgian ecosystem is open for business, as is the UK. The regulatory system in Georgia is very good, and it means that there's huge opportunities for partnership between the UK and Georgia. We work with a lot of Georgian and UK companies, and we want to continue and expand this work through the embassy.
A similar point is underlined by the Chief Financial Officer of the Georgian fintech startup, Payzy. Saba Nakhutsrishvili thinks that Georgian companies have great potential for regional expansion.
There are great opportunities regarding innovation and creation of new products. First of all, they need to get to the same technical expertise and level that banking organizations are already, and then we need to innovate and make our innovation in technologies further.
The chairman of the Fintech Association of Georgia, David Kikwidze, in conversation with BMG highlighted the importance of the relationship between commercial banks and fintech companies. The chairman thinks that the full launch of the open banking infrastructure will harmonize the two financial sectors.
Open banking presents many opportunities because its full implementation will create new business models. If today commercial banks and fintech companies perceive each other as competitors, tomorrow those barriers will be removed and commercial banks will have the opportunity to export those services and products using API technologies. Later, those will be used by fintech companies. They will become distributors of those financial services and products in the country.
David Kikwidze's position is shared by the Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of Georgia, Archil Gachachiladze, who claims that commercial banks and fintech companies are not competitors, as banks want to help such companies to transform into regional players.
We do not think that there is a contradiction On the contrary, we support fintech and want to be the bank that will serve these new technological fintech companies, and not only from a banking point of view. This is an inevitable process that will happen one way or another, and if we facilitate this process and help it to develop better, such financial organizations could become regional companies. In this case, we will serve them.
Among Georgian startups, fintech companies are noteworthy. Some Georgian fintech startups have been backed by the leading global startup accelerators, while others are offering their services to customers outside of Georgia. Let's hope that sooner, rather than later, Georgian fintech companies will conquer the global market too.
And how the rest of the business week looked like, our reporter Natia Taktakishvili will give us a glimpse.
Georgian apparel brand Lakobukia declares that textile industry faces increased prices on the raw materials. As the founder of the apparel brand told BMG, logistics is the biggest problem due to the pandemic and the Russia-Ukrainian war. As she explains, the challenge is that no logistic companies cooperate with Russia anymore. We don't have the production of textile in Georgia. High logistic costs is a problem, has been so before the war and the pandemic, but the impact of the war is that logistic companies no longer cooperate with Russia, and it's not possible to deliver goods. Therefore, all orders are cancelled. As for the prices, raw materials have not got expensive in Turkey, but their cost has doubled in Europe compared to the previous period. If until now the price of 1 meter of fabric started from €20, now it costs at least €30, says Lakobukia. The founder and the designer of the brand also says that after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the sales of Lakobukia also fell. Sales on the international platform Farfetch are twofold down because Russia has a large share in our sales. At this stage, 20% of our products sales accounts for Europe, while the rest to Asia, she explains. Online grocery shopping application Rocketman will be launched on the Georgian market soon, which will enable customers to buy groceries remotely. Akaki Pirpilashvili, the founder of Rocketman, told TV program Business Morning that it will be an online supermarket where the customers can buy food products at a lower price compared to the ordinary market. According to him, initially the application will cover Tbilisi, and in the future it will include the whole Georgia. Rocketman will not have physical locations, large warehouses, and obligation to pay rental fees. Moreover, will not have to hire the same number of staff, so we can be able to sell the product at a lower price, says the founder of Rocketman. Rocketman is a beneficiary of TBC startup program. A new settlement is being built in Snow Gorge, Kazbegi region. The estimated value of the investment is 900,000 gelari. Project Living Kazbegi is implemented by Leak Development LLC, founded in June 2021. Alexei Khudushauri is 100% shareholder of the company. As the representative of the company explains, Living Kazbegi is a test project after which the investment might increase significantly. This will be the first well-organized settlement in Kazbegi. We are currently building only 5 houses on a total area of 3,200 square meters. The investment volume is over 900,000 gelari. The houses will not be sold to citizens of other countries, explains Alexei Khudushauri. The construction project takes place in the village of Achkhoti, located 3-4 kilometers away from the center of Kazbegi. Ajara Group and USAID represented Radio City project this week. According to USAID and Ajara Group, Radio City is an innovative project tailored to the interests of the public and communities. The renovated buildings of the former radio factory located in Gdani Mukhyani will create a new unique center for attraction for creative industries, small and medium-sized enterprises, youth and innovators in Tbilisi. The unique ecosystem of Radio City will include shared workspace, shops, restaurants, bars, entertainment and event venues. The project will unite more than 10 industries, 35 sectors, and will support more than 200 economic activities. For the development of various phases of Radius City project feasibility study was conducted with the support of USAID. In addition, Ajara Group held a presentation of the new company D-Block. As a part of the company's new direction, D-Block will create shared workspace in Tbilisi and beyond, and will contribute to the diversity of innovative ecosystem of Ajara Group. Businessman Ivan Echkhartishvili is holding Smart Capital Group, which owns tobacco producing and distribution companies in Georgia. Tbilisi Tobacco and Joe Distribution published their financial report for 2021. According to the report of Tbilisi Tobacco, the company sold 45.6 million GLR worth goods last year, which was 11 million GLR more compared to the previous year. According to the document, Tbilisi Tobacco had a net profit of 20 million GLR last year, and it was twice as much compared to the previous year. Geo Distribution, which is engaged in the distribution and sales of various tobacco products throughout the country, had a much larger income of 167 GLR. The company earned a net profit of 9 million GLR in 2021. As of December 2021, the shareholders of the company are Ivan Echkhartishvili, Mikhail Echkhartishvili, and Nadia Echkhartishvili. The company's brands are Pirveli, Pirveli Inter, Pirveli Premium Blue. In Group is developing a hotel business and plans to launch a 5-star hotel in Tskhaltubo by spring 2023. According to Erekle Kokaya, the executive director of the company, a 100-room hotel project includes a restaurant, bowling area, 2 pools, a spa, and a gym. The head of the company says that the investment cost of the project is over 50 million GLR, and after its implementation, the company will be able to employ 7,100 local citizens. At this stage, we are waiting for the approval of the project. As soon as we have the project and get permission, we will start construction. The building was constructed in the 80s. It was owned by a private person, and we were asked to take over the management. The main thing is to get the permission on time, and therefore we are thinking of launching the hotel by May next year, Kokaya told BMG. The first Georgian gelato type ice cream producing company, Luca Polari, plans to start expanding its production on the international market. Director of the company, Teta Bagari, told BMG. According to her, along the neighboring countries, the company wants to enter the European market as well. Ukraine was one of the first markets we considered entering. We studied the market last year, held negotiations both with the Chamber of Commerce and business sector. However, due to the created reality, it was delayed, but we believe that Ukraine will win and Luca Polari will enter the Ukrainian market after the war. As for Europe, we are planning to enter Germany as the first country. We have quite close ties with this country and have already studied the market. The environment in Germany is quite competitive compared to Georgia or our neighboring countries. However, as a result of a lot of work, our brand will definitely enter the German market, said Teta Bagari. Company Luca Polari will sell the franchise to foreign countries for $10,000 USD and will impose certain obligations on the partners. New raw milk processing company Milky City was opened in Didoplistkharo with an investment of 4 million GLR. Tamar Modibadze, director of the company, told BMG that the family were producing dairy products for years, but recently they decided to turn the activity into a business. Company Milky Way started operating last fall with a personal investment and grants gained from USAID, FAO and state program Enterprise Georgia. As a result, today the company manages 2 stores in Tbilisi and another in Didoplistkharo. The production capacity of the enterprise is up to 20 tons of milk per day. As a result, we produce 12 types of products at this stage, including cheese, cottage cheese, butter, and etc. The enterprise employs about 20 persons, says Tamar Modibadze. The head of the company says that their products are made entirely from raw milk, and since they appeared on the market, the interest and demand for their products has been high, and this pushed the company to expand the chain of Milky City stores. The demand is very high, so the company plans to open Milky City stores across the capital in Didiromi and Gdani. We don't talk about the details yet because the issue is being worked on, said the head of Milky City.
Now, a narrower focus on tourism. Georgia's leading investment bank, Galton Taggart, reviewed September 2022 for the tourism industry in Georgia and beyond. Here are some very interesting findings that I would like to share with you. Tourism recovered quickly in 2022, almost identically everywhere. Georgia slightly lags global tourism recovery as Russia-Ukraine war softened tourist arrivals, mostly from the EU countries. Tourism recovery accelerated since May 2022. After initial negative impact from Russia-Ukraine war. Tourist arrivals recovery stood at almost 57% in the first half of 2022 and around 79% in July-August of 2022 vs pre-pandemic level. Tourism revenues are recovering faster than arrivals, around 78% in the first half and around 124% in July-August of 2022 vs pre-pandemic level, explained by influx of migrants, high inflation and arrival mix, more tourists than same-day arrivals. Hotel revenues recovered swiftly in the regions, aided by domestic tourism also, while Tbilisi market still lags behind, reflecting partial recovery in tourist arrivals.
It's not a secret that tourism is one of the important sectors of the economy in Georgia. And we are happy to see that the figures in tourism is picking up, and there is a quite positive trend. But still, we should be very conscious because there are many challenges, kind of regional tensions and geopolitical tensions that are in the region. I guess this is one of the major threats. But still, the dynamics is positive, and we are very positive regarding the figures. One of the major findings that we saw in the presentation is that the regional tourism in Georgia is picking up quite strongly, and not only the major cities, the tourism are back not only in the major cities but mostly in the regions, and I guess this tendency will be even stronger going forward. So we are positive on that side.
Employment partially recovered in the hospitality sector in contrast to full recovery in other sectors. Salaries are growing, reflecting general trends in other sectors as well as labor shortage. This will likely remain a long-lasting problem for the sector as a halt in tourism due to pandemic makes the sector less attractive for job seekers.
There is a gap between information and investors' decision, where and how to invest and which is the preferable project for investors. I think that this kind of gathering is the good chance for investors to have this information, to reduce this gap, and in order to have very adequate decisions when industry flourishing, when there is a good signs of recovery and when there is a good signs of increasing visitors to Georgia.
In previous years, we saw oversupply risks in the branded hotel segment, mostly in Tbilisi, due to an extensive pipeline. However, pandemic reduced interest toward the sector after years of investment boom. The medium and large-sized 30-plus rooms hotel room stock growth softened over 2020-2022, and reduction in hotel construction permits hit on weaker investor interest. Galton Taggart expects gradual revival of investments, mostly in regional hotel development, amid faster than expected recovery in tourism, and Georgia remaining a popular tourism destination despite regional geopolitical tensions.
Compared to 2019, recovery is almost more than 90% in terms of number of tourists traveled to Georgia. And at the same time, what is also very important, that spending by tourists has increased compared to 2019, and the increase is pretty dramatic. Like, if I remember correctly, it's more than like 25% for the entire year, and for the last months, it's even higher. And we hope that the geopolitical challenges which are hindering development of not only tourist sector but other sectors as well will somehow be mitigated in near future. And in case the situation is solved, then we think that trend of tourism growth will continue, and the pace of the growth might even increase in the coming year.
Here is some more information about the specific plans of the co-investment fund in the near future.
In terms of real estate projects, is 2 hotels. It's Luxury Collection by Marriott on the Freedom Square, which we will open in the first half of the next year. And at the same time, we will also open 130-room 4-star hotel in Sirnari, Kakheti region, which is wine region, well-known wine region in Georgia. And at the same time, we are also actively working on Tabori project, which is sits on top of Tbilisi. And the main feature of this project is a 9-hole golf course, which will open together with the hotel, and the hotel will be connected with our Luxury Collection hotel at the Freedom Square with a cable car.
Galt and Taggart forecast tourism revenues to fully recover in 2022 than the pre-pandemic level, and expect 10% year-on-year growth in 2023. Geopolitical tensions remain a key risk for a sector outlook. Georgia's tourism industry needs to focus on high-potential niche tourism destinations such as winter wine, medical and wellness, and MICE tourism. Galt and Taggart believe in order to attract more high-spending visitors.
Galt and Taggart conduct the conference. We presented a short summary of our latest research about tourism sector, and we discussed key challenges and opportunities of the sector for the future. We discussed recovery dynamics of the tourism sector in Georgia and in Europe to compare dynamics of the recovery. We also talked about new hotel supply dynamics. So we spoke about the performance of the hotel industry and the future perspectives based on future projects, pipeline of the projects, construction permits for hotels, and so on.
Now, an even narrower focus on Batumi tourist season to build on the main findings of Galt and Taggart's review. Our reporter Georgi Aronia, who visited Batumi on a work trip, will give us details.
This is Batumi, Western Georgia's tourist center. A city that attracts not only Georgians but international travelers, global citizens, and digital nomads who visit the capital of Ajara for its chaotically beautiful architecture, delicious food, beautiful boulevards, and attractive aura. As they say in Batumi, summer is over but the tourist season is still ongoing. What they also say in Batumi is that in recent years, the city has changed its nature and became a 4-season tourist destination. Yet as chefs and restaurateurs, hotel managers and apartment owners agree, the summer of 2022 was a year to remember. One of Batumi's main charms is Georgian cuisine, which equally attracts both Georgian and foreign guests. Speaking to BMG, brand chef Hatuna Salukwadze notes that this summer, everything related to tourism has worked fantastically in Batumi. However, Georgian cuisine is not the only point of attraction in Batumi, because we should not forget the many events that brought thousands of travelers to the Georgian seaside. That is what the general manager of Radisson Blu Batumi thinks as the main driver of this summer's success. According to Ilya Saganelidze, in addition to the regional scale events, the appointment of direct flights became one of the catalysts of Batumi's fantastic summer. Along with the growing flow of international tourists, the general manager of Alliance Palace Batumi, Mamisawar Shalomidze, also speaks about the development of local tourism. According to Mamisawar Shalomidze, the Georgian travelers who used to rent apartments have now moved to apartment-type hotels. As Batumians say, the warm season is over, but the hot tourist season is still ongoing. It turns out that Batumi transforms every year, and soon, The time will come when the capital of Achar and the whole region will become a four-season tourist destination.
And before we say goodbye, let me introduce you to our new team member, Salome Matiashvili, and her very interesting interview with MEP Marina Kalyurand. The brief interview was recorded in the Parliament of Georgia after Georgian Parliament Speaker Shalva Papuashvili discussed the implementation of the European Union's 12-point conditions for the country's membership candidate status and bilateral parliamentary cooperation in a Tbilisi meeting with members of the EU-Georgia Parliamentary Association Committee. In a tweet following the meeting with MEPs Marina Kalyurand and Sven Mikser, Papuashvili said he had held a cordial and frank discussion with Kalyurand, who serves as the chair of the committee facilitating EU-Georgia relations, and Mikser, the EU rapporteur on Georgia.
First of all, just finished the Committee of EU-Georgia Association. So what can you say? What information did you get? How are we doing about the 12 recommendation of European Commission?
Yes, you're right. The main priority of today's meeting was to see what Georgia has done after the June 23rd decision. What are the feelings among different stakeholders? What are the concrete steps taken? And yesterday we had 12 hours of discussions with civil society, with opposition, with Georgian Dream, with government representatives, with experts. And I can say that I see readiness to continue with the work, but of course it needs commitment from both sides, from all sides. It needs commitment from Georgian Dream to listen to opposition, to civil society, so that they really feel that they are being listened to, that their positions are being discussed. From opposition, it means constructive involvement.
Do you see this readiness from?
I did not participate in the meeting of the working groups. I could only say and evaluate from what I heard from different stakeholders. What I see is that everybody wants Georgia to become candidate state of the EU, and everybody supports Georgia's people's aspiration to become EU member state, and that's a big thing. Now it's in the hands of politicians and other stakeholders to bring to life, to reality, Georgian people's wishes.
I've seen your statement from yesterday where you said that the example of Estonia could be inspiration for Georgia. What do you mean? What Estonia did that Georgia could use for now in the practice?
Estonia regained independence like after the dissolution of Soviet Union in 1991. And from the first day, it was clear that we want to be part of the EU, we want to be allies of NATO. And it took us years before we were invited to negotiations. We were invited to negotiations at the end of the 90s and became EU members only in 2004. During that time, we were doing our reforms. And what I think might be an inspiration to Georgian politicians is the way how Estonian politicians came together. All of them, from different parties, from different affiliations, but they came together for the one aim, to join EU, to join NATO. So it's doable. It's the question of political will, and it's the question of coming together and putting this priority higher.
What are these critical reforms that Georgia should make?
I think that after the 23rd of June, everything's very clear. Until then, we had the Charles Michel agreement. Now we have the recommendations from the Commission. So they are out there. There's nothing new. It's judiciary, constitutional reform, electoral reform. It's getting over polarization, de-oligarchization. So I'm not saying anything new. Everything's written in the recommendations.
What could you say? What is the main, maybe economical issues that government should focus on more? Maybe from the association agreement, maybe from DCFTA?
Yes, we discussed association agreement and we discussed DCFTA and we looked at different sectors: energy, transport, connectivity, digital. So I think that improvement is needed in all those sectors because it's never ready. Like Georgia, like EU, like my country Estonia, there's always room for improvement. But what I was also very pleased to say today at the meeting is that EU is the biggest trading partner of Georgia and EU is the biggest investor of Georgia. It's a big thing, but it's not the end of the road. We need to be more close in different sectors. We need to have much more close cooperation in different sectors, and it's doable. It's possible, and we have to do that.
And I know you are in a hurry, so I have one last question for you. You've been foreign minister of Estonia, also you served in the US, in Kazakhstan, even more in Israel also. So what can you say? What is the most important issue for foreign policy of Georgia? What should our foreign ministry do from your experience?
I'm not going on the slippery slope. I'm not going to advise Georgian foreign minister. I can say what was priority for Estonia when we regained independence.
Yes, according on your experience.
Yes, our experience was never to be alone, to find as many friends and partners and supporters as possible. So that was the reason why for us it was vital, because we saw the only way of being independent, of preserving Estonian language, culture, everything, via becoming EU member state, because we have the same neighbor. You have northern neighbor, we have eastern neighbor, and we have to think about our security, we have to think about well-being of our people, and that's only with other like-minded states, with partners, and with allies. And you forgot to say that I was also ambassador to Russia.
Yes, I forgot this. That's my bad. Thank you for your time. Thank you for this interview. And thank you for supporting our country all the time.
Thank you.
This is all for today. We will meet next Sunday at 11 a.m. sharp. Till then, take care and follow us on Forbes.g and BM.g.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.